Hello, friends. Happy Friday, and welcome to Verbal to Visual, the live show. Thanks for hanging out today. I'm excited to explore today's topic, which is looking at potential sketchnoting side hustles. For me, this is an interesting opportunity to explore in this realm. So that's the focus of the things we'll be chatting about and sketching about today. While I draw a little welcome sign here, drop us a hello in the live text chat. Let us know where you're coming from, how things are going today, and maybe if there's a specific sketchnoting project that you're working on right now. I'd love to hear about it. Or maybe if you have any exciting weekend plans in general, or maybe if there's like a side project of some sort that you already have going related to sketchnoting, that the weekends are an opportunity for you to kind of spend some time plugging away on. This weekend, I will be taking a break from work. I've learned that it's helpful for me to take like Saturday and Sunday off from doing anything verbal to visual related, just because like my brain needs that break, my body needs that break, my relationships in some cases need that break. And this weekend, my wife and I will be kind of putting the finishing touches on a nursery as we prepare for twins. My wife is pregnant with twins, due mid-April, trying to get all our ducks in a row so that we're ready, because with twins in particular, they could kind of come at any time. So that's my weekend task, is kind of doing some preparation for that. It is Friday, March 19th, 2021. Welcome to Amy. Thanks for joining us, Amy. Amy's got 2 projects in the works: an infographic for Creative Crisis Leadership. Nice, a collaboration with another Verbal to Visual member. And also working on curricula for the Children's Museum. Sweet, 2 solid projects to be working on. Hi, Anne. Good to see you here within the live stream. Hope all is well in Paris. Valerian says, hi, Doug. It's Verdi from Indonesia. We have a group of close friends here learning sketchnoting from you. That's so cool. You really helped us visualize all our problems and solving them more easily. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. For today's live stream, we're going to look who forgot to erase the part of the project that I copied and pasted. We're going to follow this similar flow for our live stream today. I've been liking it. I've mentioned this kind of maybe multiple times here during these live streams, but like part of this month-long experiment with live streaming. This is a thing that I'm doing just throughout the month of March, every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, just to see like if I enjoy this format, if you enjoy this format. And we've kind of landed on like this 3-part structure that I like quite a bit. So we're going to start with a little bit of warm-up and skill building today. Then we'll transition into some sketch notes of a particular topic. And then we'll kind of jump into the how-to sketch note realm. let's get that started with a little bit of warm up and skill building. Once again, we're going to do some visual vocabulary. The topic that we will be building our visual vocabulary around will be the concept of a side hustle. Shout out to anyone who is watching this because they just got an email from me. And were intrigued by the little teaser included within that email about a sneak peek for an upcoming verbal to visual course. More on that later in the live stream. All right, let's talk about a side hustle. And here, building up some visuals related to this probably like relatively new term, maybe within the past decade. I don't know how long. This might be some fun research to do, like when the term side hustle was established. Yeah, be curious about the history of that term. To start, so for those unfamiliar who maybe haven't heard that term before, a side hustle is essentially like a side project that you take on that also has the opportunity for you to earn some income on the side. So like on the side of your primary job, maybe. So with that financial component in mind, let's do not just a dollar sign. Let's have a dollar sign next to a stack of bills. Just to show the potential of a side hustle to maybe bring some extra income your way. So that visual there kind of is connected to the concept of cash, of course. Money in general. I guess those are pretty much the same thing. Income. That's part of the purpose of a side hustle, is to kind of create some opportunities for that to come your way. Another component of the way I think about side hustles too is kind of like maybe like additional savings that you might want to create for yourself. So here we're going to draw in, bring in an element that I had to practice beforehand here. We'll see how well I do it. I don't think I've drawn this before. Probably. You might be able to tell what's coming here. Hint, it's an animal. This also has me thinking about like why, like where the heck did piggy banks come from? Who decided to like choose that animal as the one that will make this like ceramic container around where we can put our loose change? Ooh, let's do some. There we go. And then let's add a coin here to show maybe some money actually being placed away like that. So this, of course, is a piggy bank. But it could also be used to represent the concept of savings. And then kind of more generally, financial security. This is part of the reason I'm interested in kind of exploring the concept of a side hustle and maybe helping sketchnoters develop their own side hustle to like slowly build up your financial security over time. Because as we saw, like in 2020 in particular, but it seems to happen every 10 years or so, like something happens in the world or the market that throws a whole lot of insecurity into a bunch of different parts of life. So a side hustle is one way of kind of building up some potential financial security for yourself. Bring in some people, a little bit of stick figure, a little mini scene into our visual vocabulary building for today. Let's draw a person, kind of like on a hike. What this visual represents for me are the words, concepts, challenge, maybe adventure, and also like tried to pay attention to the slope of that line, because when I think about what it looks like to create a side hustle, for me, like the most important thing is paying attention to pace and making sure your the work that you do in building out a side hustle, you do that work at a sustainable pace that doesn't burn you out. So that has some continuations of the past couple of live streams, the topics that we've explored in the past few live streams, and also signifies, like, what's interesting to me is that I don't really associate with the term hustle anymore like I used to, but like hustling is something that I try not to do. So I don't really like the term hustle. I do really like the term side hustle, just because of the extra connotation that that word side has, that it's something that you do on the side that isn't all consuming of your life, and that has like the space for that sustainable pace to play an important role. Let's do another stick figure, this time showing someone at work. Maybe they're at a desk, plugging away on something. Who knows exactly what, but maybe there's some excitement and energy to that work. That image could represent, give myself a little more space. That could represent a side project. Or kind of related, passion project. For me, these are connected to the concept of a side hustle, because I think like the side hustles that I'm interested in exploring are ones that like fit within that realm of a passion project. So it could be this passion project that also you might be able to set up in a way that earns you some income over time. With that visual, it's kind of fun to experiment with, not always having to draw like the full stick figure. Like I didn't draw a chair or the person's legs. I didn't draw like the bottom of the table. So those are some variables that you can experiment with as you're drawing people and objects. You don't always have to draw like everything there. It can kind of have a a floating in space aspect to it, while still communicating the thing you want to communicate. Let's swing over here. This next one is probably most connected to that concept of sustainable pace. Let's draw a clock, a very imperfect clock. With the hour hand, the minute hand. Then I'm going to grab my my highlighter pen and give that highlighter pen a kind of light gray color. Kind of as a shading technique of sorts here, that this brush is set to an automatic layer that's below my main drawing, so that's why it kind of goes into the background like that. But there, this is to signify something like maybe creating a schedule for yourself. Maybe trying to carve out some dedicated time when you work on your side hustle. And even dedicated time, I feel like, is a relevant concept here. But then also priorities. And I kind of mean two things with that word priorities. One, deciding whether or not you want to make your passion project a priority and maybe turn it into a side hustle. That it will take, like, making that a priority to be able to carve some time out for it. But then also paying attention to other things in your life that you want to prioritize, and make sure you're very clear about what that, like, priority list is, where your side hustle lands amongst your other responsibilities and relationships and other projects, so that you know when to maybe set this side hustle aside when you need to go spend time on something that's higher priority in your life. Two more here. With creative work in general, and often with, like, any sort of product creation, I like to think of creating products, even like just the act of maybe sharing your sketch notes in some form. Think of that as like a gift. Approach the creation and sharing of that thing as a gift that you give to someone else. So, and this is kind of, you know, from a mindset perspective, because we still are talking about something where there, you know, might be a like financial transaction involved. But even when that's the case, I think you can still approach what you're doing, what you're creating, approaching it as a gift that you're going to give to someone else. So that's why terms like service and delight come to mind also. One more as we round out this little mind map of visual vocabulary elements connected to the concept of a side hustle. One of my most frequently used icons. The magnifying glass, which I like to kind of have focused on some specific thing. So that could represent the concept of focus. And also like attention, choosing where you're placing your attention. And maybe also like when you want to give your attention to your side hustle and when you want to like not give it attention, having the right kind of balance and bounds to it. I feel like this also brings up the concept of a deep dive, where maybe as part of your side hustle, you're exploring like a topic that you're really interested in, and the side hustle itself allows you to go deeper into that topic. So here we have got a handful of visuals connected to the concept of a side hustle. In many cases, these types of visuals could be helpful in other contexts as well. And hopefully at least one or two of these is new to you, so that you are able to add a new piece, new element to the hopefully growing library of icons and simple drawings that you can kind of quickly bring into a note-taking session. If other specific concepts or visuals have come to mind for you throughout this exploration, drop those in the live text chat. I'm going to have some coffee here and catch up on that text chat. Amy says, we're working on the sketchnoting style guide for the nonprofit Creative Crisis Leadership. So this week's Mighty Network workshop was timely. Nice. I'm glad that there was nice overlap there. On Wednesday, inside of Verbal to Visual, inside of our Mighty Network, we focused on the topic of hierarchy with handwriting. So ways to use kind of handwriting alone to establish like a few different fonts that you use, maybe like a big title font and then some detail, like a detail font, maybe a kind of highlight or emphasis font. So I can see that making it into something like a style guide for an organization. It's very cool. There we go. I'm curious, Anne, after I've talked a little bit about like the definition of a side hustle. So I'm curious if after that visual vocabulary exercise, if you feel like you have a good sense now for what a side hustle is. And if not, we can define it more clearly. Welcome, Ann Kit. Thanks for making it out and stumbling upon us today. Amy mentions bringing in the Benjamins with that first icon, I think. And I'm drawing a person working out of the back of their car. Okay. I've also got a first-time watcher, just subscribed, in time for the live session. Hey, that's perfect. Thanks for hanging out. In the whole back of the car thing, Amy mentions that happens a lot at the farmer's market. A hatchback is standard. Yeah, well, that's kind of a fun like scenario to think about, like farmer's market, like arts and crafts market. That could be a fun kind of marketplace to think about, and kind of brings up kind of different ideas for me, at least, about what you might create with your sketchnoting skills, creating some artistic things that maybe you take to a farmer's market or an artist market, a craft market, and sell some things out of the back of your car. Anne says the drawings helped. I'm glad to hear it. With that, as a little bit of a warm-up, we have now completed part 1 of our live stream today. We got a little bit of warm-up and skill building. Next, let's go over to Sketchnotes of. And this time, rather than bringing in Sketchnotes of a podcast or a book or a video or something like that, these sketch notes are kind of came solely from me. So what I want to explore within this sketch note are we're getting there with the conversation that kind of Amy prompted with the farmer market analogy, but I kind of want to compile a list of potential side hustles for sketchnoters. And for this one here today, let's do something like that as our title. I'm trying to get into the habit of changing up how I present the titles for these sketch notes. Because if I do too much of just a colored cloud around them, it gets a little boring. There are two kind of categories of side hustles that I feel like are worth distinguishing between and coming up with distinct examples of each. On the one side, we can look at freelance sketchnoting opportunities. So freelance would be where you kind of provide a one-time service for someone else for a specific amount of money. There have been a handful of folks inside of Verbal to Visual who have been dipping their toe into these freelance waters, often because if you sketchnote regularly and if you share your sketchnotes with other people, kind of no matter where you're doing that sharing, eventually someone's going to ask ooh, how much would you charge to sketchnote my thing? It's almost an inevitability. I've heard of it happening so many times, and it's happened in my experience as well, that's the type of thing that can open up the door to some freelance opportunities. The other category that we'll look at is the creation of your own products that you sell. So with this one, rather than providing a service for someone else, you are creating your own product that you sell directly to customers. We'll use the bottom part of this diagram for that section. So what we'll do here with this sketch note is list out a bunch of examples. And as I go here, if specific examples come to mind for you, let us know in the text chat. On the freelance side, let's start there. One opportunity that might come up, kind of depending on who is familiar with your work, the style of it. You might come across the opportunity to provide some sketch notes for a book that someone's writing. And maybe this is a traditionally published book. Maybe it's a friend or colleague or acquaintance that's kind of writing their own book that they're just publishing on their own to Amazon, and they know you're this visual person and they want you to come in and add some sketch notes and diagrams to it. That is a opportunity for some freelance work. Maybe There's maybe there's a podcast that you really like. And maybe the hosts and creators of that podcast would love to have you do some sketchnoted show notes. To add wherever that podcast is published. Maybe create some visuals to help. I mean, kind of the cool thing with like adding this visual component to an audio media is that when the creators, the hosts are then kind of sharing that podcast, maybe with your sketch notes, they have these like strong visuals to pull people in and maybe to encourage folks to listen that might not otherwise because of that visual intrigue that you have created. Continuing through, let's see, we kind of we explored written media, or at least like the starting point of each of these. Written media with a book, audio media with a podcast, or you could go straight to video. Perhaps you've already taken the verbal to visual course, how to make sketchnote videos. That's a service that you could provide for others. And there's kind of this category called explainer videos. If you want to see what those could look like, but don't let the results of a Google search of explainer videos, don't let those results like limit your concept of what a sketchnoting video could look like. Because you'll probably see a lot of I'm curious to see what would come up if you do a YouTube search for explainer videos or something like that. A couple more freelance gigs that you might seek out if you'd like to build your own side hustle as a sketchnoter. Maybe you could connect with a person who gives talks regularly, hosts workshops. And what you could do for that person is help make their presentations more interesting, more impactful, more visual. You could focus on creating high impact visual presentations for others. So far, I've seen a lot of people who get into sketchnoting weave these skills into their own presentations that they're giving. Like they weave it into their own work, which I encourage you to do whenever that feels, whenever you see that opportunity. And even like doing that for your own work, for your own presentations, you can kind of build up your visual presentation skills. But if you want to keep going in that direction or, start this side hustle, you could offer that as a service for someone else that gives talks regularly or any form of presentation. You could be their presentation guru of sorts. And somewhat related, thinking of events that occur right now. These events are, likely occurring online. Eventually, we'll get back to more in-person events, but there will always be some online events where one person or a group of people are sharing some ideas and other folks are taking in those ideas, engaging with them in different ways. And what you could do, this is kind of like the flip side of helping someone create a visual presentation. On the flip side, you could just show up live, maybe with some idea of the event topics, and you could be an event sketchnoter, where it's more about creating helpful visuals live in the moment. So I'd be curious to hear if any of those kind of freelance opportunities sound intriguing to you. And maybe like identify, I'd love to hear like which of these options is the most appealing to you. I'll ask that question of the freelance options here, and then I'll ask it again of the products one. But all these, like, they have different dynamics to them, right? The event sketchnoter, it's a little bit like high pressure, this live situation. Some level of like extroversion might be helpful there. So if that's your thing, then, you can go in that direction. If you enjoy reading and want to have more time to work with the ideas, something like sketchnoting books, you could go in that direction. Or if you really like making videos, go in that direction. So like all sorts of, your personal preferences and work styles and interests, they can make their way into this process of maybe deciding which type of these freelance opportunities you might be open to. Related here, Amy mentions, I provide sketch notes for websites and blogs. Yeah, that's great. That's another like, I guess kind of similar to the sketch notes for a book, but in smaller form and published on the web. Like at that point, you're kind of a content creator for a website. In the same way that people get paid to write articles that show up as blog posts, you could also get paid to create sketch notes that are included within blog posts or websites. Yes, Spare, I am monitoring the text chat. And I stopped drawing at like around 2nd or 3rd grade. Before that, I was probably just like, definitely just an average drawer. I was never like a good artistic drawer as a kid. And I stopped drawing after 2nd and 3rd grade. Didn't really get back into it until graduate school, when I went and got my Master of Arts in Teaching. On my way to becoming a middle school and high school teacher, came across like graphic organizers and like slowly made my way into like the world of visual thinking, and then built up my drawing skills from there. Ooh, intersection of sketchnoting and NFTs. That could be really interesting. I mean, I've watched some YouTube videos about NFTs, but I won't say that I like full. I kind of understand them, but like the potential of where they're going, still a whole lot that's up in the air. It's a good question. What age is 1st grade? I would have to Google that. Next, let's look at some potential products. If you don't really, like you'd rather make your own products than like doing services for other people, let's see what that might look like. One thing you might create, especially thinking about like the expertise that you already have or the interests that you already have. Maybe you could spend some time kind of like compiling this information that you have, sharing your perspective on a given topic to write some sort of a how-to guide. That include lots of sketch notes. And maybe it's like fully sketchnoted how-to guide. Maybe it's just like a back and forth between written text, helpful visual, written text, helpful visual. Both of those formats, I think, work really well. To go kind of deeper in that direction, this next one here kind of has more time investment required. You might do a similar aggregation of your knowledge around a given topic and create an online course. One of the resources inside of Verbal to Visual is called Build an Online Course with Sketchnotes. If you haven't heard of that one, you might enjoy exploring it. I really like curriculum design and even like the process of like crafting educational experiences that hopefully are transformative. So that's a topic that I enjoy spending time thinking about. That's why I decided to build a resource that helps you to do something similar. Maybe instead of or before, on your way to maybe creating a video-based online course, you could lower the pressure a little bit, focus on a single video at a time. Maybe pick a topic that you want to explore. And let's do the title below this one. Maybe you start a Patreon supported YouTube channel. So I feel like it's kind of relevant and helpful to see that like any specific style of sketchnoting work that you want to do, you could either like use those skills in a freelance format to do this type of work for other people, or you could just create your own products with the exact same skills, essentially. So the explainer videos compared to like creating your own YouTube channel, that's kind of like either side of that coin. A couple more product examples here. If you kind of enjoy the more illustrative type of sketchnotes, you might consider essentially turning your sketchnotes into art. And maybe sell some prints of your work. Something that I have a little bit of experience with. Actually, maybe I think it'll be fun when I'm done listing out all of the options here. I will describe like which of these I have done, just to share the like the personal experience. I'll try to do it quickly. Like that could be its own whole video, but I have personal experience with like almost all of these, which is kind of interesting. Just things that I have tried and experimented with over the years. Let's make that spacing a little better. And kind of within like a little bit within the same realm as maybe selling individual prints of like sketchnote illustrations, you could also kind of gather together a set of sketchnotes that you created over some period of time. Let's do it like this. and maybe gather some of your favorite sketch notes, maybe add some commentary alongside those sketch notes, and sell that as a sketchnote compilation. I think I've seen Ava Lotta Lamb has a handful of books that are like yearly collections of her sketch notes, which are really cool. I also think Tanmay Vora, who I had an interview with, and there's a YouTube video here on our channel with highlights from that conversation. He has also sold kind of digital versions of his sketch notes. There's an opportunity there for that, because those sketch notes, like they have value, and combining them in meaningful and helpful ways could be a way to create a product with your skills. So here we have got a no doubt incomprehensive list of potential freelance work you might take on as a sketchnoter and potential products you might create. Quick rundown of things that I have done. Sketchnotes for a book. I contributed some sketchnotes to Chris Guillebeau's book, Born for This. Visual presentations. I contributed some sketchnotes to a creative live course that Chris Guillebeau and Stephanie Zito gave on the topic of travel hacking. I did some podcast sketchnoting for the program On Being. I've done some event sketchnoting, kind of in the realm of graphic recording. So if you want to go in the event sketchnoter direction, and especially do it like large scale poster paper on the wall, definitely do some Googling around graphic recording, because there's like a well-established profession there. When I think of event sketchnoting, I think kind of more small scale, maybe suited well, especially with like online tools like this that I'm using, that could go well in that direction. I've also done a few explainer videos for a couple of random clients. I did a couple of videos for Burgerville like 6 years ago, which is a kind of pretty awesome, like relatively, I guess they're fast food, but they're kind of high quality fast food here in, I think just the Pacific Northwest. I don't think Burgerville, forget how far their things go. I've created how-to guides. The Verbal to Visual Notebook is maybe an example of that, like a PDF that I sell. I've created a handful of online courses. I have a YouTube channel, of course. This YouTube channel is not Patreon supported. At times I have like experimented with different side projects. Probably the most recent was one that was called The Doug Neill Show, where I created that as a space to kind of share behind the scenes stories about building a sustainable creative career. That was mostly a podcast, had a video component for a little bit, and was Patreon supported. But it got to the point where like that, doing that and Verbal to Visual was too much. So I stopped doing that side project and just focused on Verbal to Visual. At the very beginning of, maybe even before I started Verbal to Visual, I spent some time making prints. I had an Etsy shop and developed, half a dozen maybe different sketchnote style prints that I sold there. I have yet to do a sketchnote compilation. So that's kind of the only thing I haven't experimented with. So maybe that's one that I gotta try out, compiling some of my favorite sketchnotes in a book form. I'm going to catch up on the text chat here, see which of these maybe is resonating with you. Maybe you've already done some of these. Maybe you're excited to dip your toes in these waters. Let me know in the text chat or the comments down below if you're watching this after the live stream. Amy says, I saw sketchnoting used in facilitation and marketing first. That is like after illustration. And again, like there comes a point where the line gets really blurry between sketchnoting and illustration. The first student who sketchnoted her test primer at grad school blew my mind. That sounds cool. Yeah. Spare Kingdom mentions, you folks are uniquely positioned to create high fidelity, informationally dense content that's easily tokenizable. Yeah, I mean, I kind of see. Yeah, I see that potential there. Or, ooh, yeah, interesting. Maybe a graduate of one of my online courses could receive an NFT as a badge. I'm keeping a passive eye on the NFT space, but not like not doing any deep dives yet into it. Amy says, I'd like to make prints. Amy, go for it. Like anyone who's seen your work knows that they can totally see you going in that direction based on what you've shared. So yeah, I fully encourage that. Some of my sketch notes come out full-blown illustrations. Yeah, I'm picturing the sleep one that you made. That comes to mind. Performance art is another, like, that's almost like a subgenre of event sketchnoter. Yeah, that could be an interesting direction to go. Duncan says, welcome Duncan, by the way. What about sketchnoting in software engineering / architecture? There are lots of diagramming methodologies, but I find sketchnoting works for crossing tech and business. Yeah, I love that. Lots of opportunity there, I think. There's a podcast that it's called Web Rush, WEBRUSH, that next week, I think, we're going to... This is a member of Verbal to Visual who co-hosts a podcast called Web Rush, which is about software development. And he invited me onto that podcast. And since it was like during the time of this live stream experiment, I asked like, hey, what if we like broadcast that podcast conversation to my YouTube channel? And we're going to do that next week. I forget the exact day next week, but I think that'll be a fun experiment here to have a conversation as the live stream. I also mentioned that because I noticed when I looked at recent episodes, a recent guest on the Web Rush podcast was Mike Rohde, the guy who coined the term sketchnote. So if you want to dig deeper into kind of that tech realm and the role that sketchnoting can play, you probably would enjoy checking out that podcast in general and maybe start with that conversation with Mike Rohde and try to tune into our live conversation next week. Spare Kingdom says, I'd like to make an online course, but I get so nervous about recording myself. Like, seriously blocked. Yeah, that's a hurdle. That's a hurdle to overcome. With practice, you'll get there. Practice and prep. And like doing small things first. Like first, just try to make a 30-second video first. Don't focus on making like 20 10-minute video lessons. Make a 30-second video. Have that be the first thing that you create. Start small. That's my suggestion there. With that, we have now completed part 2 of our live show today. We also experimented a little bit with there is 0 color in the sketch note. I used black and 2 shades of gray. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I should add color somewhere. Other times I like this. So again, kind of within the realm of continued experimentation with different sketchnoting formats. that's something that you can play around with over time as well. Let's hop next into the How to Sketchnote section of today's webinar. This is where I will kind of follow through on the thing I teased out a little bit in the email newsletter that I sent out today. Part of the reason I chose to explore this topic today is because I am developing a resource for folks who want to use their sketchnoting skills to build a side hustle. That new resource is called Sketchnoting Side Hustle Using your sketchnoting skills to take on a project that you're excited about that builds up a little bit of financial security. So this then is a new course. And here's the overview, the brief purpose of this course, this upcoming course. Need a little more space. Go over there. Here's what I would like to help you do. Oh, sorry for when I jolt the screen around like that. I want to help you use your sketchnoting skills to, here we'll bring in some visual vocabulary that you saw if you were with us for part 1 today. So I want to help you use your sketchnoting skills to start a side hustle that serves this specific purpose Once again, practicing this new visual vocabulary element for me. Start a side hustle that strengthens your financial security. As we saw in 2020, and as we tend to see every 10 years or so, but then also depending on your personal circumstances and what's going on in your specific life, in your specific area, most jobs and most income sources don't have any absolute level of security to them. And I think that because of the value that comes along with sketchnoting, you can use your sketchnoting skills to either maybe take on some freelance gigs, maybe create your own products that allow you to begin earning an income on the side. And hopefully you can use that income to strengthen your financial security. Have more than one income stream so that if something happens in the world, in your life, you're not dependent on kind of a single source of income. That's the goal of this course. I want to help you build that. If that is something that sounds interesting to you, then I do hope that you will join us for a 4-session workshop series that's coming later this year in October 2021. So, got some time to start exploring this topic. I kind of want to start planting some seeds. That's kind of one of the purposes, I guess, of today's live stream. I would be getting to that 4-session workshops. I would get to that 4-session workshop sooner if I wasn't about to go on paternity leave. So I'm doing that here in a couple months. I also have some finishing work to do on the most recent course, digital sketchnoting. But sometimes I find it's helpful to this is kind of connected potentially to a side hustle work. I find it helpful to sometimes identify and even announce my next project. Sometimes that makes it easier for me to finish up ones that aren't quite complete yet. So that's why the first event for this new course is that 4-session workshop coming up in October. With that said, my plan is to get the structure of the course set up and allow for folks to pre-order it maybe next week, pretty soon here. Because prior to that workshop, I want to create a space where we can have lots of discussions around these topics for folks to ask questions about it, identify the things they would like to learn about in this course, the things they would like to see in this course, create a space for people to share their own stories. Since they've already been emerging within verbal to visual, I want to create a space there in a dedicated course where we can continue diving deep into this specific topic. Because I think it's it's a natural extension for folks who are already starting to share their sketch notes and see these opportunities that are creeping up. So that's the idea behind Sketchnoting Side Hustle. I'm excited about it. I will also be reflecting on my own side hustles throughout this course. Probably the one that most notably fits into that category of side hustle for me is essay writing that I do on Medium that weaves in the sketch notes that I create. So I really enjoy writing, and I like weaving sketch notes into my writing. And last year I started a Medium account, Medium profile, where I began writing and publishing essays. And that's something I want to continue doing. For me, that's a space that's kind of fits within that category of passion project and gives me a space to explore things not directly related to teaching sketchnoting. I can kind of write about whatever I want. But there is this common thread of sketchnoting throughout those essays. And it's a fun way to incorporate the skills that I teach here into this personal side project that has the opportunity to create kind of a side income because of the way that Medium is structured. And they do a cool thing where writers get paid not from ads. It's an ad-free platform, but Medium writers can get paid by folks who have a Medium membership. So readers can get pay $5 a month for unlimited access to all the writing that is on Medium, and that $5 membership, those fees are distributed to writers based on how often their posts get read. Too much of a deep dive into Medium, but just wanted to let you know that's kind of the primary side hustle that I will be reflecting on and building out alongside your side hustle within this course. So I'm excited for it. Stay tuned for an announcement, hopefully next week, if you would like to join this course. A note about courses in general, which I mentioned in today's email newsletter. I've brought back in the option of paying individually for each course as opposed to what previously we had, which was just the monthly membership option. I think that subscription option is good for some people, but for others it's impractical. So I wanted to bring back the pay per course model. I mentioned that because if you already have a subscription, then this course will automatically be added to it. So you'll see it right when it gets published inside of Verbal to Visual. It's not there yet at this exact time, Friday, March 19th. But when I get the space set up next week, you will automatically see it added to your library of courses if you're on that monthly membership model. If you're not, you just want to pick it up as an individual course, you'll see that option to make that purchase. Love to hear in the text chat if you have any questions about this specific course, this new resource, or any comments about side hustles in general if you've been following along with this stream. Anne asks a good question. Will you create the course like digital sketchnoting? First with live workshop, then creating resources. Yeah, that's exactly how I plan to do it. And I think because of my experience with digital sketchnoting, I think it'll even be, well, my hope is that it will be a little bit smoother and a little bit quicker of a process. Digital sketchnoting, the overall development kind of stretched out over a longer period than I would have liked. But we're going to follow a similar model with Sketchnoting Side Hustle, where we'll start with this 4-session workshop, as opposed to with digital sketchnoting, the first one was a 9-session workshop. So we're going to kind of start with a smaller chunk, start with a 4-session workshop, and then based on how that goes, take feedback and probably go directly from that 4-session workshop to a final polished standalone course. if it feels like there's a need to do like a second workshop iteration before the final course, we might do that as well. Anne also mentions, I like your Medium essays. Happy to see you will write more there. Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that. I enjoy writing there as well. And to be honest, Anne, I think what like sowed the seeds, part of the thing that led to like this coming about was a comment that you made on during one of our webinars, one of our workshops inside Verbal to Visual, where you kind of shared that same point. That just like pointed out to me that like, okay, other people do like that thing that I create, and I really enjoy making it. So maybe I should find a way to like bring it back in. So thank you for pointing that out when you did then. Amy says, I'm having fun combining the S with the pen in your logo. Yeah, I should have done that, huh? There's maybe the new logo for the combo or for the kind of promo image for this course. So like just bring that pen behind the S. Great idea, Amy. Hope you don't mind if I steal it. And I'm glad you like this idea. So with that, we have, I mean, it's not, this wasn't directly a how-to sketch note. This is more like introducing a future bigger how-to sketch note type thing. Starting to, oh yeah, we already did that one too. And we've now done that one. Starting to sow the seeds a little bit, plant the seeds. And from even from like the creation of your own side hustle, this is kind of something that you can do it too, even before you know like exactly like where the thing you're making will go. Once you know like the topic of it, the focus of it, the intent behind it, in many cases, it's not a bad idea to introduce that, just so that you can like start interacting with other people around the thing that you're making, so that you don't lose motivation. Also, so you get a sense for how other people are reacting to that thing and what they might want to see from it. What I'm also excited, like another reason that this feels like a good next course for Verbal to Visual. One, I mentioned that like it's already cropping up in terms of where some people are going with their sketchnoting skills, the stories that are being told inside of Verbal to Visual. That feels like good timing to bring this in. But then also, if you followed along with the course Learn in Public, that's like a great precursor to like starting a sketchnoting side hustle. Learn in Public is all about like documenting your skill development online because of the opportunities that creates for you. So this side hustle course kind of like bridges that gap. But then the course is how to make sketchnote videos and build an online course with sketchnotes, very related to this topic as well. So my hope is that this course kind of rounds out the potential kind of pathway. I think more and more about like, what are the customer journeys for folks who get into sketchnoting and join Verbal to Visual? Kind of the first stage of the customer journey is just building their sketchnoting skills and maybe applying those skills to their current work, their current personal projects. A lot of richness there, and that's a great place to like continue going down. But for a lot of folks, once they've kind of made it through that part of the customer journey, this is, I think, a great next stage. Next island to sail over to and be the kind of next adventure as part of a customer journey for folks who are into sketchnoting, folks who have joined Verbal to Visual. So I hope it resonates with some current and future Verbal to Visual members. Gaia and Pythagoras Learning Center asks, I'm kind of lost. Which app do you use to make your digital sketchnotes? I use an app called Concepts. And there's a playlist on this YouTube channel that includes all the videos that I've made about concepts. So go check out the playlist tab from the YouTube homepage for this channel to check those out. You'll also see, if you go to recent videos, you'll see lots of live streams in recent videos, but you'll also see a video titled something like my sketchnoting live stream setup, in case you're curious about like how I use concepts to live stream to YouTube. There's a video on that as well. I think that might do it for today's live stream. So here's what we've done today. We started by building some visual vocabulary on the topic of a side hustle, different visual elements that you might be able to bring into a future note-taking session, whether or not it's directly related to side hustles. A lot of these visuals have multiple meanings to them. Then we listed out a handful of potential side hustles that sketchnoters might take on, distinguishing between these two different categories of freelance work that you might do as a sketchnoter and products that you might create as a sketchnoter. Then I announced an upcoming course within Verbal to Visual that I'm super excited about called Sketchnoting Side Hustle. The first big event for that course will be in October of this year. We'll do a 4-session workshop. But prior to that, we're going to have lots of conversations and places for folks to share what they're working on, ask questions, get feedback on any side hustle that maybe they're starting. There'll be a space for that within Verbal to Visual real soon here. With that, I think we'll wrap it up for today's live stream. A little bit early, but that feels like a good stopping point. Thank you for hanging out throughout the live stream. I will note that each of these sections I will be kind of cutting down into shorter videos and publishing in the weeks to come. So keep an eye out for those. And also know that next week I will continue the month-long live streaming experiment here on YouTube. That next live stream will be on Monday, starting again at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I haven't yet decided the theme for Monday's live stream, but once I post the live stream, maybe early Monday morning, by that point I will have identified the topic. So my hope is that kind of with the titles of these live streams, that gives you a sense for whether you might want to hang out with us and do some sketchnoting around that topic. So stay tuned for that. As always, thanks for folks who are participating in the live chat. Thanks for folks just watching along right now. And also anyone who catches the replay. I appreciate you hanging out here. With that, the coffee is gone. And we will wrap up the live stream. Thank y'all so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a great